present perfect simple, and present perfect continuous. Did you know how to use them correctly, or do you still have some questions about them? In this tutorial, I'm going to go through the formulation and the uses of these two verb tenses that, by the way, are quite typical and very commonly used. Let's begin with the present perfect simple. First, we need to talk about the formulation. Let me give you an example. My boss has recently promoted me to the position of operations director. In this formula, we can see that we have obviously a subject, my boss, then we have the auxiliary verb has, third person, and after that we have the main verb promote in the past participle. In this case, because promote is a regular verb, we just need to add the suffix ed. Let me give you some more examples. I have just received a pay rise. Mary has never been to our offices in New York. In fact, she has never visited New York. I, however, have been to New York 5 times already. And it has been the best thing I have ever done. But I haven't visited New York since last summer, I think. It is about time that I go back there. In these examples, I have just given you 5 of the most typical uses of the present perfect simple. Number 1, recent past events. Number 2, life experiences. Number 3, how much we have done something. Number 4 is for the present perfect with superlatives to talk about the best thing that we have ever done. And number 5, present perfect to talk about the duration of some actions. It is time to analyze each one of those uses one by one. To make it simpler and easier for you to understand, I would like to show you this chart where you can see that there are 3 main blocks of information: red, green, and blue. Each color represents a main use of the present perfect simple. In blue, we have the present perfect simple when it's used to talk about past recent events, whereas in the green section we have the uses of the present perfect simple when we want to talk about life experiences or things that we have experienced. Finally, in the red section we have the explanation of the present perfect simple when we use it to talk about duration. Now that you know the formulation and 5 of the most important uses, let's go over each one of those uses in detail. We're gonna start with use number 1. We use the present perfect simple to talk about recent past events. Let me give you a couple of examples. Number 1, Michael has got a fantastic job offer and Lisa has left. We use the present perfect simple to talk about completed past actions, but we do not say when these actions took place. These actions often have a present result. Lisa is not in the room right now. Why? Because she has left. Michael is not working with us here right now because a new company has offered him another job, so he has also left. You see, these actions happened in the past, but they have a result right now here. And we don't mention the time when these actions or events took place. There are 3 key adverbs that you need to remember to use the present perfect with this meaning. I'm referring to just, already, and yet. Let's see some examples with each one of them and see what they mean. We use just when the action happened just a few moments ago. It's very, very recent. For example, I have just returned from New York. I have just spoken to Michael. Notice the position of the adverb. You have to place it in between the verbs, between the auxiliary and the main verb. What about already? We use already when we want to say that something has happened earlier than expected. For example, I have already finished my weekly report. I was meant to finish the report on Friday. Today is Wednesday, but I have already finished it. What about yet? Yet is the opposite to already. I haven't finished my report yet. We use yet when we want to say that something is expected to happen very soon. It should have happened already, but it hasn't. And it's also very important to notice that yet is positioned at the end of the sentence, whereas already, same way as just, is positioned in between the two verbs. You can also use other adverbs such as recently or today, and other time expressions that contain this plus a unit of time. I mean this week, this month, even this year. For example, I have returned from New York recently. I haven't had any meetings this month. Today, I haven't been to work. Naughty, naughty. Recently, today, this week, this month, these time expressions are usually positioned at the end, although you can position them at the beginning for emphasis. Today, I haven't got any phone call. Except for recently. Recently doesn't sound good at the beginning. Use number 2 of the present perfect simple. We use it to talk about past experiences. With the present perfect, the focus is on the action rather than when the action happened. So that is why we don't usually mention the time when the action took place. For example, Mary has never been to our offices in New York. I, however, have been to New York 5 times. This trip to New York has been the best trip ever. We can talk about past experiences in 3 different ways. We can use the adverbs ever and never. For example, I have never visited New York to say that throughout our entire life we have done or we haven't done something. We use ever to ask questions. Have you ever visited New York? We can also talk about experiences with the superlative. To say, for example, this has been the best trip ever. The best trip I have ever done. But you can also use the superlative to talk about the best thing that has happened in a specific period of time. For example, this is the best meeting I have attended this month or this year. And you can also talk about life experiences to say how many times you have done something. I have visited New York 5 times. I have seen this movie 3 times already. And finally, we can use the present perfect to talk about unfinished actions. This specific use helps us talk about the duration of some events or actions, and it usually answers to the question how long. We can use adverbs such as since and for. For example, I have worked in this company for 5 years. This is telling us the length of time that I have worked in this company. You could also say, I have worked in this company since 2017. We use since when we want to specify the starting point of the action, and therefore, since is often used with a specific point in time, such as a date, a moment, or an event. And we use for when we want to indicate the duration of the event or the action. For is often used with a length of time, such as hours, days, months, or years. Next, let's talk about the present perfect continuous. First, we need to understand the formulation. Because this tense is a mixture of two tenses, the perfect and the continuous, it makes sense that it's going to have two auxiliary verbs, have and the auxiliary verb be. So, the formulation is as follows. I have been working in this company for 5 years. Have been plus the main verb plus ing. Some more examples. Have you been running? I have been painting the office. She has been calling you for days. She has been calling you since last Monday. I have been trying to talk to you all evening. I have been working a lot lately. In these examples, we can appreciate several meanings of the present perfect continuous. But the present perfect continuous is mainly used to talk about duration, the duration of an action that started in the past and continues up until the present. This tense has to be used with action or dynamic verbs. Let's have a look at the examples so we can understand this better. Have you been running? I have been painting the office. In these two examples, we have action verbs, run and paint. And we can appreciate that in both cases, the action started in the past and it is finished or it may not be finished. Have you been running? The person is not running right now, but you can see that she or he is sweating. Therefore, the action has been concluded or completed very recently. And therefore, we have a present result, the sweat. On the other hand, in the example about the office, I have been painting the office, we can see the present result because my hands are dirty. I have paint on my hands. But this doesn't necessarily mean that the action is completed. The office may not be finished. I have been painting it, but I haven't finished yet. Or perhaps it is finished. It's just a matter of context. You will need to ask, have you finished painting the office or are you still doing it? Let's now look at the other examples. She has been calling you for days. I have been working since you left. In these two examples, the present perfect continuous is being used to talk about continuous or repeated actions or situations from the past until now. She has been calling you for days. She has repeated this action for several days. I have been working since you left. In this case, I have been doing the same activity continuously, without stopping. I have been trying to talk to you all evening. I have been working a lot lately. She has been working very hard since last summer. How long have you been working for this company? In these examples, we use for, since, how long, lately, all day, all month, all week, even all year, to ask or say how long a situation has been happening. When do we use the present perfect simple or the present perfect continuous? We can use both of them to talk about situations that started in the past and continue. But we use the present perfect simple with mental or state verbs, whereas we use dynamic or action verbs with the present perfect continuous. Although the present perfect simple is possible with some dynamic verbs. For example, work, study, or live. I have lived in Barcelona for 5 years, or I have been working in this company for 5 years. In both cases, they mean the same. However, if you want to emphasize how long a situation has lasted, we should use the present perfect continuous. I have been waiting for hours. I have been working all day. In these two examples, we are emphasizing how long a situation has been happening. We can also use both tenses to talk about finished or unfinished situations from the past. We use the present perfect simple for situations that are already finished, and we don't usually say when these situations or actions took place. For example, somebody has taken all the pencils from my desk. In this case, the action is finished. There are no pencils left. But we don't say when. You could also say, somebody has been taking the pencils from my desk. This can mean two things. That the pencils are not finished, I still got some of them. Or it could also mean that they are all gone. Somebody has been taking them, and now I have none left. They're all gone. This action has been completed very recently. Another example. I have been watching the TV series that you recommended me. I'll tell you about it when I finish it. I've watched the TV series you recommended. I watched the last episode yesterday. In the first example, I have been watching the TV series that you recommended. I haven't finished watching them yet. Whereas in the second one, I have watched the TV series you recommended. I watched the last episode yesterday. In this case, the action is completed. And in this case, we use the past simple to mention the time when the action was completed. We can also use the present perfect simple and the present perfect continuous to talk about actions with present results. We use the present perfect simple if the results come from completing the action. For example, the office looks so nice. Have you painted it? The office looks nice because I have completed the action. I have painted it recently. Conversely, we use the present perfect continuous when the present results come from the process of doing the action. For example, sorry, I'm sweating. I have been running. Or, how come are you so dirty? Have you been painting the house? Yes, I have been painting the house. And finally, we use the present perfect continuous with how long to talk about the duration of an action. And we use the present perfect simple with how many or how much to talk about the quantity of something that we have done. For example, I have written 20 emails. How many emails have I written? I have been writing emails for hours. In this case, we use the continuous to say the duration of the action.